CSIR Evolution Chapter 14. Chapter 14, Communication and Territorial Behavior. 4.1 Social Communication. Social communication is defined as action on the part of one organism that alters pattern of behavior in another organism. It consists of displays or signals that can be perceived by other individuals and which convey information to them. Natural selection shapes displays or signals into systems of communication if the transmission of information benefits both the sender and the receiver. Thus, the ultimate cause of communication is the selective advantage it gives to individuals that engage in it. The advantages of communications are: 1. It helps in recognition of species, individuals, neighbors, castes, social insects, kin, and demes. 2. It facilitates courtship and mating. The courtship displays benefit the male if they attract females. The displays also benefit the female if they allow her to assess whether the male is of the right species and whether he is strong, vigorous, and has other attributes that will make him a good father. 3. A common mutual benefit of communication is the reduction of uncertainty about the status or intentions of the signaler. Even in aggressive interactions, reducing uncertainty helps both sender and receiver to avoid physical harm. Thus, communication prevents agonistic interactions and promotes the establishment of social status between conspecifics. 4. It facilitates social animals to herd at dusk or at the time of danger. 5. It accelerates coordination among hunting animals. 6. It plays crucial role during parental care. 7. It alerts kins in a social group through alarm calls. Studies of communication can be complex because they must take into account the sender, the receiver, and the environment. The displays or signals that an animal can generate depend on its physiology and anatomy. Likewise, an animal's ability to perceive displays or signals depends on its sensory physiology and on the environment through which the display or signal must be transmitted. 14.1.1 Chemical signals, Communication through chemicals falls in this category. Molecules used for chemical communication between individual animals of the same species are called pheromones. Pheromones are powerful. A few pheromone molecules released into the air or water through urine, sweat, or other bodily secretions are enough to influence another animal's behavior. An important feature of pheromones is that once they are released, they remain in the environment for a long time. By contrast, vocal or visual displays disappear as soon as the animal stops signaling or displaying. The durability of pheromone signals enables them to be used to mark trails, as ants do, to mark territory, or to indicate directionality, as in the case of the moth's sex attractant. However, it also means that the message cannot be changed rapidly, thus it is a relatively slow form of communication. This inflexibility makes pheromonal communication unsuitable for a rapid exchange of information. The chemical nature and the size of a pheromone molecule determine its speed of diffusion. The greater the speed of diffusion, the more rapidly the message gets out and the farther it will travel, but the sooner it will disappear. Trail marking and territory marking pheromones tend to be relatively large molecules that diffuse slowly. Sex attractants tend to be small molecules that diffuse rapidly. Because of the diversity of their molecular structures, pheromones can communicate very specific messages that contain a great deal of information. The mate attraction pheromone of the female silkworm moth is a good example. Male moths as far as several kilometers downwind are informed by these molecules that a female of their species is sexually receptive. By orienting to the wind, direction and following the concentration gradient of the molecules, they can find her. Male elephant have temporal glands, which produces scent to indicate their readiness for mating. Male musk deers have musk glands located at the end penis. Liberate the pheromone called musk1 that is used to mark territory and also attract females. Territory marking is another example in which detailed information is conveyed by chemical communication. Pheromone. Messages left by mammals such as cats and dogs, for example, can reveal a great deal of information about the signaler. Species, individual identity, reproductive status, size, indicated by the height of the message, and when the animal was last in the area, indicated by the strength of the scent. Carnivores like dogs, cats, tigers, foxes use urine to mark their territories. Tigeramine is a thick milky fluid with a strong odor produced by tigers. Other animals like rhinoceros and hippopotamus mark their territories with fecal matter and urine. Rhinoceros mark their territory with piles of feces, left around edges where other individuals may encroach. Many vertebrates produce odors to carry many information to conspecifics and to members of other species. Animals like house shrews, striped hyena, some fishes etc. produce alarm or distress chemicals when under stress or injured. In primates, pheromones help to identify hierarchy and to establish mother-child bonding. Chemical communication has various advantages. It is most durable signal. It helps to establish hierarchy, dominance, grooming and bonding between animals without much harm. It is effective over distance and around corners. Chemical signals also convey the level of aggression or submissiveness in members of a society, thus they act as warning signals. This reduces excessive aggression, bloodshed and loss of life and thus maintains the integrity of the society. Limitation of chemical communication is that it cannot be rapidly changes, pheromone being volatile has to be released again and again over a period which required expenditure of energy. Diffusion of chemical signals is dependent on wind so cannot be carried out in direction opposite to wind. The odor may also attract predators. Asterisk 14.1.2. Visual signals, asterisk. Light signals detected by the eyes come into this category like gestures, postures, and facial expressions, courtship and aggressive displays in many birds, fish, amphibians and mammals. Raising of hair and color change are some of the good examples of visual communication. Visual communication can be a structural adaptation, a badge, or it can be a behavioral adaptation, a display. Badges. Animals often communicate using structural adaptations like the bright yellow color of the male, American goldfinch. A structural adaptation that is used to communicate is called a badge. Asterisk example 1 asterisk the male white-tailed deer has antlers. The size of the antlers is a badge that can tell another male deer how powerful the other deer is. The larger the antlers, the more powerful the deer. Asterisk example 2 asterisk badges can also help females pick a mate. Many male birds, like the northern cardinal, have brightly colored feathers. The brighter a male bird's feathers, the healthier it is. Healthy animals make better mates than the weaker animals, because their offspring will be stronger and better able to survive. Asterisk example 3 asterisk sometimes, the color or pattern of an animal is a badge that serves as a warning to other animals to stay away. The Gila monster's bright orange-colored splotches are a warning to predators that the Gila monster is poisonous and they should back off. Example 4, a black patch on the back of a lion's ear or the wing bars on the sniped birds help to maintain contact between members of a group. Asterisk displays asterisk when an animal exhibits a behavior that can be seen by other animals, it is called a display. Displays can be used to attract a mate or to warn off a predator. Asterisk example 1 asterisk when a male peacock opens its tail feathers and show courtship dance, trying to attract the attention of a female, that is a display. Asterisk example 2 asterisk wolves and dogs put their tails between their legs and lie on their backs to show submission to another wolf or dog and to let them know they are not a threat. When wolves and dogs want to show dominance, they stare at each other, raise their fur and bare their teeth. This lets the other wolf or dog know that they want to be the top, or dominant animal. Asterisk example 3 asterisk many animals use visual displays to attract a mate. A female American crocodile tries to get the attention of a male by lifting her head and showing her neck. She will also use tactile communication and rub up against the side of the male's head and neck. This lets the normally aggressive male know that she is not aggressive. Asterisk example 4 asterisk visual communication is the most important to monkeys and apes and certainly the best described and understood. Primate eyes have exceptionally good capability of perceiving very small differences in shapes. A dominant monkey in Altrip will walk around with its tail up and head held high majestically, while a submissive male monkey will have a crouched or subdued position. During the mating season, the females expose their swollen and brightly colored rear end. Asterisk example 5 asterisk a cat with its back arched, teeth exposed and hair standing on edge suggests that it is extremely aggressive. Some animals even change color. Asterisk example 1 asterisk the male bird become more brightly colored and patterned during breeding season, even molting their feathers to achieve this. Asterisk example 2 asterisk the most striking are the fishes. The male stickleback fish turns bright red on its belly with brilliantly iridescent blue eyes. Asterisk example 3 asterisk the chameleons change color, camouflage, according to their environment, thus escaping from its predators. Asterisk example 4 asterisk some animals mimic or appear like poisonous forms which help them to escape from their predators. Because visual communication requires light, it is not useful at night or in environments that lack light, such as caves and the ocean depths. Some species have surmounted this constraint by evolving their own light-emitting mechanisms. Asterisk example asterisk fireflies use an enzymatic mechanism to create flashes of light by emitting flashes in species-specific patterns. Fireflies can advertise for mates at night. Fireflies also illustrate how some species can exploit the communication systems of other species. There are predatory species of fireflies that mimic the mating flashes of other species. When an eager suitor approaches the signaling individual, it is eaten. Thus, deception can be part of animal communication systems, just as it is part of human use of language. Visual signal has advantage and disadvantage both. Visual signals are fastest mode of communication and most effective in short-distance communication to send precise and unambiguous message. It is effective in all direction and independent of wind. Visual signals are easy to produce, come in an endless variety, can be changed rapidly, and clearly indicate the position of the signaler. However, the extreme directionality of visual signals means that they are not the best means of getting the attention of a receiver. The receptors of the receiver must be focused on the signaler, or the message will be missed. Most animals are sensitive to light and can therefore receive visual signals, but sharpness of vision limits the detail that can be transmitted. The complexity of the environment also limits visual communication. Asterisk 14.1.3 Auditory signals, asterisk. Sound is the most used form of communication in animals. Sounds are waves of alternating pressure changes that pass through a medium, air, water, or solid. The intensity or volume of sound is measured in decibels, dB. Proper vocalization. Invertebrates and noises made by invertebrates using special structures are included in this category. Crickets, birds, amphibians, bats, whales, primates all have extensive use of sound, acoustics. 1. Insect vibrates various parts of their body to produce sound. For example, crickets produce loud sound by rubbing the hind legs with their wings. This is called stridulation. The Madagascar cockroaches produce hissing sound by expelling air through the spiracle. 2. Some birds like the woodpecker produce loud drumming sound by tapping a hollow object. Snipes produce sound by rapidly passing air through their tail feathers. 3. Bats and whales produce ultrasonic sounds to communicate. 4. Elephants can also communicate by producing infrasonic sounds. The environments in which animals communicate affect propagating acoustic signals so that the structure of the sounds reaching the receivers are altered versions of the original patterns produced by emitters. Acoustic signals transmitted across long distances can experience attenuation and degradation. Attenuation refers to decreases in signal amplitude as a function of the distance from the sound source. In ideal conditions, sounds propagating in the air experience a 6 dB reduction in amplitude every time distance is doubled, i.e. spherical spreading. The acoustic adaptation hypothesis states that, in order to overcome environmental constraints, signals are endowed with optimal characteristics for transmission in the sender's native environment. This hypothesis implies that signals used in long-range communication experience less attenuation and degradation in native than in foreign habitats depending on differences in vegetation coverage. Based on the different patterns of degradation in relation to habitat structure, this theory predicts that songs with low frequencies, narrow bandwidths, low-frequency modulations, whistles, long elements, and inter-element intervals should be prevalent in habitats with complex vegetational structure to maximize broadcast range. Some of examples of use of auditory signals by animals are Example 1 The songs of birds are the most familiar and well-studied example of acoustic signals. The song of the male birds during the breeding season provides information to other birds as to his species, sex, breeding condition, aggression, and territorial behavior. Bird songs serve two main functions, i.e., to attract the mate and at the same time it repulses other male rivals. Hence singing ensures successful mating and reducing unnecessary conflicts. Example 2 Animals that live in societies or colonies among the vertebrates communicate various information to other members like source of food and presence of predators by alarm or warning calls, mating calls to attract the opposite sex. Example 3 Some whales, such as the humpback, have complex songs. When these sounds are produced at a certain depth, around 1000 m, they can be heard hundreds of kilometers away. In this way, humpback whales can locate each other over vast areas of ocean. Compared with visual communication, auditory communication has advantages and disadvantages. Sound can be used at night and in dark environments. It can go around objects that would interfere with visual signals, so it can be used in complex environments such as forests. It is better than visual signals at getting the attention of a receiver because the receiver does not have to be focused on the signaler for the message to be received. Like visual signals, sound can provide Directional information, as long as the receiver has at least two receptors spaced somewhat apart. By maximizing or minimizing certain features of the sounds they emit, animals can make their location easier or more difficult to determine. Sound is useful for communicating over long distances. Even though the intensity of sound decreases with distance from the source, loud sounds can be used to communicate over distances much greater than those possible with visual signals. Auditory signals cannot convey complex information as rapidly as visual signals can, as is implied by the expression a picture is worth 1,000 words. When individuals are in visual contact, an enormous amount of information is exchanged instantaneously, for example, species, sex, individual identity, reproductive status, level of motivation, dominance, vigor, alliances with other individuals, and so on. Coding that amount of information, with all of its subtleties, as auditory signals would take considerable time, thus increasing the possibility that the communicators could be located by predators. It is omnidirectional and expensive in terms of energy, and even signal is received by other animals or predators. The auditory signal is not durable and rapidly get distorted over distance. 14.1.4 Tactile signals. Communication by touch is common, although not always obvious. Animals in close contact use tactile interactions extensively, especially under conditions that do not favor visual communication. When eusocial insects such as ants, termites, or bees meet, they contact each other with their antennae and front legs. One of the best studied uses of tactile communication, beginning with the work of Carl von Frisch, is the dance of honeybees. When a forager bee finds food, she returns to the hive and communicates her discovery to her hive mates by dancing in the dark on the vertical surface of the honeycomb. The dance is monitored by other bees, who follow and touch the dancer to interpret the message. Figure 125, Waggle Dance of Honey Bee. If the food source is more than 80 meters away from the hive, the worker bee quickly starts waggle dance up and down a vertical honeycomb within the hive. Her sisters stay near her, making as much physical contact as possible with both her and each other in the process. While dancing vigorously by waggling her abdomen, the worker conveys crucial information to her relatives in the hive. Figure 125. For example, her dance provides topographical information / north, east, south, west, northwest, and so on, for finding the food source from which she has just returned. When compared with a straight up and down run along a comb, the angle at which the forager dances provides information about the position of the food source of interest in relation to the hive and to the sun. Further, the longer the bee dances in a part of the waggle dance, known as the straight line, the farther away the flower patch. Every extra 75 milliseconds of dancing translates into the resource being about an additional 100 meters from the hive. The more precise the information conveyed in the waggle dance, the greater the ability of other bees to find the food source, the more food brought back to the hive, and consequently the greater the inclusive fitness of the forager, because a hive is largely composed of individuals that are closely related to one another. If the food she has found is less than 80 meters from the hive, the forager performs a round dance, running rapidly in a circle and reversing her direction after each circumference. The odor on her body and the round dance combine tactile and chemical cues. The odor indicates the flower to be looked for, and the dance communicates the fact that the food source is within 100 meters of the hive. 14.1.5 Electric signals. Some species of fish have evolved the ability to generate electric fields in the water around them by emitting a series of electric pulses. These trains of electric pulses can be used for sensing objects in the immediate surroundings, and they can also be used for communication. An electrode connected to an amplifier and a speaker can be used to listen to the signals generated by glass knife fish in a tank. Each individual fish emits a pulse at a different frequency, and the frequency each fish uses relates to its status in the population. Males emit lower frequencies than females. The most dominant male has the lowest frequency, and the most dominant female has the highest frequency. When a new individual is introduced into the tank, the other individuals adjust their frequencies so that they do not overlap with the newcomers, and the V newcomer's signal indicates its position in the hierarchy. In their natural environment, the murky waters of tropical rainforests, these fish can tell the identity, sex, and social position of another fish by its electric signals. Communication has been a fruitful area for investigating the ultimate causes of behavior and how the resulting adaptations have been shaped by the environment. 14.2 Use of space habitat selection. The environment in which an organism lives is called its habitat. Habitat use means distribution of individuals across habitats/habitat types. Habitat selection is actual process how animals distribute themselves in space and time with respect to some resource in their environment. The resource might be food items, mates, refuge from predators, and so on. Thus, selecting a place in which to live is one of the most important decisions an individual makes. Once a habitat is chosen, an animal seeks its food, resting places, nest sites, and escape routes within that habitat. Choice of habitat may strongly influence survival and reproductive success, but some of the ways in which organisms make their choices are surprisingly simple. Habitat preference means the likelihood of a habitat being chosen if offered on an equal basis with others. 14.2.1 Habitat selection has both innate, genetic, and learned components. Habitat preferences can only be considered adaptive if preference conveys fitness benefits. Habitat choice has been shown to have an innate, genetics, basis in some vertebrates. Few experimental studies have been performed, and these most often relied on interspecific comparisons. Patridge, 1974, showed that Laboratoire-raised coal tits, parasitaire, and blue tits P. carolilius maintain species typical preferences for the foliage types they prefer in nature, pine and oak, respectively. Learning also play important role in habitat selection in various cases, as follows. *1. Site tenacity. Many species show site fidelity to particular locations, even if the habitat is altered. Example, breeding birds. *2. Imprinting onto the environment. In some species, particular habitat attributes experienced at a young age may influence later habitat decision. Example, bluebirds tend to use the same nest type as that in which they were born. *3. Experience. Experiences acquired in later stages of life can also influence habitat selection. Example, wild turkeys return to the same nesting areas when reproductive success was high. Resource availability and the presence of others can influence habitat selection. Resource availability is an important aspect of habitat quality, and the number of individuals in a habitat affects the level of competition for those resources. The importance of these factors to explain distributions of animals can be explained by these models. *14.2.2 The Ideal Free Distribution (IFD) Model*. Steve Fretwell and Henry Lucas developed the Ideal Free Distribution (IFD) model to explain how animals distribute themselves among habitats. The model's name comes from its assumption that animals act in an ideal manner, in that They select habitats that maximize survival and reproduction and are free to enter any habitat. The model contains 5 assumptions. 1. Individuals attempt to maximize their fitness when settling in a habitat. 2. Habitat locations differ in the resources they contain. 3. The fitness of individuals in a habitat decreases as more individuals settle there because of increased competition for resources. In other words, fitness is negatively density dependent. 4. Individuals have equal competitive ability and can accurately assess the fitness payoffs of each habitat. 5. Individuals are free to move between habitats at no cost. The model then makes the following predictions. Prediction 1. Individuals will settle in habitats based on the relative fitness payoffs of those habitats. The number of individuals in each habitat will be proportional to habitat quality, resulting in more animals settling in higher quality habitats. Prediction 2. In the end, all individuals will have the same fitness no matter where they settle. We can understand the logic of these predictions by examining 2 hypothetical habitats, or habitat patches, of high and low quality. Figure 126. Imagine a situation in which individuals settle sequentially in these habitats. The first few individuals should settle in the high-quality habitat because this will yield the highest fitness. However, as more and more individuals enter the high-quality habitat, the fitness of each individual will decline because of increasing competition for resources, producing a negative relationship between the number of individuals in a habitat and their fitness. At some point, the fitness payoff will be higher for an individual settling in the poor-quality habitat, so a new settler should go there. And additional settlers should then select both of these habitats equally. This model also allows us to make predictions about the relative number of individuals in each habitat. If habitat quality is determined by resources, the model predicts that the number of individuals in a habitat will be proportionate to the resources available. For just 2 habitats, if one contains twice the resources of the other, then twice as many individuals should settle there. Figure 126, Ideal Free Distribution Model. Consider 2 habitats, A and B. Habitat A is the higher quality habitat because it yields the highest fitness for any given population density. As individuals first arrive, all individuals should select habitat A. After more than X individuals arrive, they should settle equally in both habitats. If the resources differ by a factor of 10, so will the number of individuals. In this way, each individual obtains the same fitness no matter which habitat it settles in. During the settling process, individuals are always free to move to a higher quality habitat if one is available. However, once all individuals settle, none can do better by moving to another habitat. 14.2.3 The Ideal Dominance Distribution Model *. Here, assumption that all individuals are competitively equal is dropped. According to this model, density is higher in low quality habitats because competitively superior individuals exclude inferior individuals. 14.2.4 Conspecific Attraction *. The IFD model assumes that competition for resources results in a decline in individual fitness as the number of individuals in a habitat increases. Because each additional individual reduces fitness for all, owing to competition, new settlers should avoid rivals if a better option exists. Sometimes, however, individuals exhibit the opposite pattern. Instead of avoiding others, they settle near them, a pattern known as conspecific attraction. 2 hypotheses exist to examine conspecific attraction. 1. Ali effect. For very low population sizes, fitness of individuals increases with increased population density. 4. Example, a solitary individual might be at high risk of predation, whereas 2 or more individuals might experience lower risk. Similarly, a group might be more attractive to potential mates than a single individual. For example, the creosote bush grasshopper, or desert clicker, Ligurotetyx cocoleti, feeds on the leaves of creosote bushes, Lariia tridentata. Each spring, males set up mating territories on these bushes, and so a bush represents a breeding habitat. Males tend to be faithful to a site and remain in the territory throughout the spring and summer, when they make a loud clicking sound to attract females. Males most often select the habitat with an apparent conspecific. Why did focal males prefer the occupied bushes? Researcher found that females exhibit a strong preference for bushes with multiple calling males, so aggregated males have higher mating success than singletons. In other words, female preference may create an Ali effect. Males that aggregate on a bush with rivals can obtain more mating partners than can solitary males. Thus, even though a second male may experience increased aggression from an established male, its reproductive success can still be higher than if it settled alone. This example illustrates how an Ali effect can explain conspecific attraction in grasshoppers and their habitat selection behavior. 2. Conspecific cueing. In this, settler uses the presence of another individual as a cue to habitat quality. It may be difficult for individuals to assess the relative quality of some habitats, an ability assumed by the IFD model. Habitat quality is a function of many factors, such as resource levels, the availability of nesting locations, and the number of predators, some of which may be difficult to assess. Instead, a settler can use the presence of another individual as an indicator of habitat quality. In many species, experienced breeders will resettle in a habitat if they successfully reproduce there the preceding year. If a high-quality habitat last year is likely to be a high-quality habitat this year, then the location of experienced breeders provides a valuable cue. The conspecific cueing hypothesis predicts that inexperienced individuals, whether first-time breeders or new immigrants, are most likely to exhibit conspecific V cueing. For example, after collared flycatchers arrive on their breeding grounds in spring, they regularly peer into the nests of other individuals. Seeing this behavior, researchers hypothesized that the flycatchers were assessing the quality of the habitat by seeing how well their neighbors were doing. To test this hypothesis, the researchers created some areas with supersized broods by taking young birds from some nests and adding them to nests in another area. The next year, flycatchers preferentially settled in those areas where broods had been artificially enlarged. Asterisk 14.2.5 Cues for habitat selection asterisk. Most organisms uses the cues which are good predictors of general conditions suitable for future survival and reproduction for habitat selection, such as vegetation and landscape structure, food availability, presence of predators/parasites, presence of conspecifics or heterospecifics, and public information. For example, a young red abalone, gastropod mollusk, begins its life as an egg that is fertilized in the open ocean. About 14 hours after fertilization, the egg hatches, but the swimming larva has enough yolk to continue developing for another 7 days without eating. Then, the larva stops developing, swims to the seafloor, chooses a place in which to settle, and metamorphoses. Red abalone larvae settle only on coralline algae, upon which they feed. They recognize coralline algae by a chemical these algae produce. In the laboratory, abalone larvae will settle on any surface on which this molecule has been placed, but in nature, only coralline algae produce it. By using this simple cue, the larvae always settle on a surface that is suitable for their future development. Habitat selection in ants. An animal may leave an area either temporarily or permanently if its population has grown too large to be supported by the local resources or if the environment has deteriorated. When a colony of the ant Lepidothorax albipennis has grown too large for its nest site, or the nest site has been damaged, recruiter ants, all of which are female workers, look for potential new nest sites. When an ant finds a suitable site, she returns to the nest and releases a pheromone that attracts another recruiter. The two run together back to the site. If the other recruiter likes the site better than others she has visited, she returns to the nest and recruits another worker. The behavior of recruiters is governed by only two rules. First, if a site is not very attractive, a recruiter delays her return to it. As a result, ants gather at mediocre sites more slowly than at better sites. Second, once a threshold number of workers have been recruited to a particular site, the recruiters change their behavior and begin carrying eggs and larvae from the colony to the new site. In this way, the colony reaches agreement. Agree on the best site, which may not be the first one discovered. Asterisk 24.3 Territorial behavior asterisk. When animals settle in an area, an animal can improve its survival and reproductive success by establishing exclusive use of the resources of part of its habitat. The most common way of doing so is to establish a territory from which the resident excludes conspecifics, other individuals of the same species, and sometimes individuals of other species as well, by advertising that it owns the area and, if necessary, chasing others away. A territory is the space used for food, mating, or other purposes that an animal defends against others of the same species. The behaviors involved in securing and defending the territory are called territorial behaviors. Territorial defense provides exclusive use of resources but also requires that animals expend effort to defend these resources from rivals. Territories differ from home ranges, which are areas of repeated use that are not defended from others. The home ranges of many individuals can overlap, while territories do not. Territory defense requires physical effort. It takes both time and energy to chase off intruders. The ultimate function of animals inhabiting and defending a territory is to increase the individual fitness or inclusive fitness of the animals expressing the behavior. Fitness in this biological sense relates to the ability of an animal to survive and raise young. The proximate functions of territory defense vary. For some animals, the reason for such protective behavior is to acquire and protect food sources, nesting sites, mating areas, or to attract a mate. Asterisk 14.3.1. Advertising territory asterisk. With many kinds of animals, the possession of a territory is often a requirement for reproductive success. In a way, then, territorial behavior has the effect of allocating breeding space and limiting population size to that which the ecosystem can support. This kind of behavior is widespread in the animal kingdom and can be seen in such diverse groups as insects, spiders, fish, reptiles, birds, and mammals. When territories are first being established, there is much conflict between individuals. This eventually gives way to the use of a series of signals, signposts, that advertise the territory and communicate to others that the territory is occupied. After the territorial boundaries are established, little time is required to prevent other males from venturing close. Thus the animal may spend a great deal of time and energy securing the territory initially, but doesn't need to expend much to maintain it. Territorial use various signaling methods to maintain ownership of their territories. The most common sign. Post are 1. Scent marking, also known as territorial marking or spraying when this involves urination, is a behavior used by animals to identify their territory. Most commonly, this is accomplished by depositing strong-smelling substances contained in the urine, feces, or from specialized scent glands located on various areas of the body. Often, the scent contains pheromones or carrier proteins such as the major urinary proteins to stabilize the odors and maintain them for longer. The animal sniffing the scent frequently displays a flame in response to assist in detecting the mark. Scent marking is often performed by scent rubbing in many mammals. In many mammal species, scent marking is more frequent during the breeding season. Felids, such as leopards and jaguars, mark by rubbing themselves against vegetation. Prosimians and New World monkeys also use scent marking, including urine washing, self-anointing the body with urine, to communicate. Territorial scent marking may involve behavior specific to this activity. When a wolf marks its territory, it lifts a hind leg and urinates on a scent post, usually an elevated position like a tree, rock, or bush. This raised leg urination is different from normal urination, which is done while squatting. This posture is exclusive to alpha wolves of either sex, although the alpha male does this most often. The alpha female usually urinates on a scent post that her breeding partner has just urinated on. Although during the mating season, the female may first urinate on the ground. All other females in the pack, and also young wolves and low-ranking male wolves, urinate while squatting. Males and female ring-tailed lemurs, lemur cata, scent mark both vertical and horizontal surfaces at the overlaps in their home ranges using their anogenital scent glands. To do this, they perform a handstand to mark vertical surfaces, grasping the highest point with their feet while applying the scent. In the eastern carpenter bee, Xylocopa virginica, both sexes have glands that evolved for marking the nest. Males, although they have the gland, are unable to produce the marking substance. Females secrete it near the nest site. Entrance to establish their territory. Wombats use feces to mark their territory. They have evolved specialized intestinal anatomy to produce cubical feces to ensure the feces do not roll away. Asterisk 2. Visual marking asterisk. Visual signposts may be a short-term or long-term mode of advertising a territory. Short-term communication includes the coloration or behavior of the animal, which can only be communicated when the resident is present. Other animals may use more long-term visual signals such as fecal deposits or marks on the vegetation or ground. Visual marking of territory is often combined with other modes of animal communication. Some animals have prominent badges or visual displays to advertise their territory, often in combination with scent marking or auditory signals. Male European robins are noted for their highly aggressive territorial behavior. They attack other males that stray into their territories and have been observed attacking other small birds without apparent provocation. Such attacks sometimes lead to fatalities, accounting for up to 10% of adult robin deaths in some areas. The red breast of the bird, i.e. badge, is highly visible when it sings, vocal marking, at the boundary of its territory. The male red-winged blackbird has red shoulder patches, but the female does not. The male will perch on a high spot, flash his red shoulder patches, and sing to other males that happen to venture into his territory. Most other males get the message and leave his territory. Those that do not leave, he attacks. He will also attack a stuffed, dead male red-winged blackbird in his territory, or even a small piece of red cloth. Clearly, the spot of red is the characteristic that stimulates the male to defend his territory. Once the initial period of conflict is over, the birds tend to respect one another's boundaries. All that is required is to frequently announce that the territory is still occupied. This is accomplished by singing from some conspicuous position in the territory. The ring-tailed lemur, Lemur cata, advertises its territory with urine scent marks. When it is urinating for marking purposes, it holds its extremely distinctive tail high in the air, adding a visual component to the advertisement. When it is urinating for eliminative purposes, its tail is only slightly raised. Rhinoceros have poor vision but may use visual marking. Dominant white rhino bulls mark their territory with feces and urine, olfactory marking. The dung is laid in well-defined piles. There may be 20 to 30 of these piles to alert passing rhinoceroses that it is occupied territory. Other males may deposit dung over the piles of another, and subsequently the signpost grows larger and larger. Such a dung heap can become up to 5 meters wide and 1 meter high. After defecating, greater one-horned rhinos scratch their hind feet in the dung. By continuing to walk, they transport their own smell around the paths, thus establishing a scent-marked trail. Another method of visually marking their territory is wiping their horns on bushes or the ground and scraping with the feet, although this is likely combined with the smell of the marking animal. The territorial male scrape marks every 30 meters, 98 feet, or so around its territory boundary. After leaving an urination mark, some animals scrape or dig the ground nearby, thereby leaving a visual advertisement of the territory. This includes domestic dogs. Several species scratch or chew trees, leaving a visual mark of their territory. This is sometimes combined with rubbing on the tree, which may leave tufts of fur. These include the Canada lynx, Lynx canadensis, and the American black bear, Ursus americanus. Many animals have scent glands in their paws or deposit fur during tree marking, so tree marking may be a combination of both visual and olfactory advertising of the territory. The male ring-tailed lemur has a specialized adaptation to assist in leaving visual/olfactory territorial marks. On their inner forearm, antebrachial, is a scent gland which is covered by a spur. In a behavior called spur marking, they grasp the substrate, usually a small sapling, and drag the spur over it, cutting into the wood and spreading the gland secretions. When on the ground, ring-tailed lemurs preferentially mark small saplings, and when high in the trees, they usually mark small vertical branches. European wildcats, Felis sylvestris, deposit their fecal marks on plants with high visual conspicuousness that enhances the visual effectiveness of the signal. Territorial fish use color patterns and threat postures to defend their territories. Asterisk 3. Auditory asterisk. Many animals use vocalizations to advertise their territory. These are short-term signals transmitted only when the animal is present, but can travel long distances and over varied habitats. Examples of animals which use auditory signals include birds, frogs, and canids. Crickets use sound and threat postures. Wolves advertise their territories to other packs through a combination of scent marking and howling. Under certain conditions, wolf howls can be heard over areas of up to 130 square kilometers, 50 square miles. When howling together, wolves harmonize rather than chorus on the same note, thus creating the illusion of there being more wolves than there actually are. Wolves from different geographic locations may howl in different fashions, the howls of European wolves are much more protracted and melodious than those of North American wolves, whose howls are louder and have a stronger emphasis on the first syllable. Asterisk 14.3.2 Defending Farriery Territory asterisk. Animals use a range of agnostic behaviors to intimidate intruders and defend their territories, but without engaging in fights which are expensive in terms of energy and the risk of injury, such as ritualized aggression and redirected aggression. Ritualized aggression is when animals use a range of behaviors as posture or warning but without engaging in actual aggression, which is expensive in terms of energy and the risk of injury. Ritualized aggression involves a graded series of behaviors or displays that include threatening gestures, such as vocalizations, spreading of wings or gill covers, lifting and presentation of claws, head bobbing, tail beating, lunging, etc., and occasionally posturing physical actions such as inhibited, non-injurious bites. In redirected aggression, the animal attacks something other than the natural opponent. If the intruding goal doesn't leave at this point, there will be an actual battle. A person who pounds the desk during an argument is showing redirected aggression. Look for examples of this behavior in your neighborhood cats and dogs, maybe even in yourself. Example, many seabird colonies have extremely small nest territories. Each territory is just beyond the reach of the bills of the neighbors. Trespassers are severely punished. Within a gull colony, each nest is in a territory of about 1 square meter. When one gull walks or lands on the territory of another, the defender walks toward the other in the upright threat posture. The head is pointed down with the neck stretched outward and upward. The folded wings are raised slightly as if to be used as clubs. The upright threat posture is one of a number of movements that signal what an animal is likely to do in the near future. The bird is communicating an intention to do something, to fight in this case, but it may not follow through. If the invader shows no sign of retreating, then one or both gulls may start pulling up the grass very vigorously with their beaks. This seems to make no sense. The gulls were ready to fight one moment, the next moment they apparently have forgotten about the conflict and are pulling grass. But the struggle has not been forgotten. Pulling grass is an example of redirected aggression. Asterisk 14.3.3 Models to explain territorial behavior asterisk. Not all animals are successful in obtaining territories. During the initial period, when fighting is common, some animals regularly win and maintain their territories. Some lose and must choose a less favorable territory or go without. Therefore, territorial behavior is a way to distribute a resource that is in short supply. Because females choose which male's territory they will live in, males that do not have territories are much less likely to fertilize females. Animals may use several strategies to defend their territories. In order to understand how non-injurious fighting could evolve through natural selection, different approaches are available. Asterisk 1. Game theory model asterisk. It is a cost-benefit modeling approach in which an individual's fitness is affected by the behavior of others. John Maynard Smith and George Price introduced the application of game theory to evolutionary biology. They wanted to understand why conflicts between individuals of the same species rarely resulted in serious injury, even when individuals possessed effective weapons such as horns or fangs. Their model, the hawk-dove model, examines the outcomes of fights between individuals who can display only two behavioral strategies, hawk or dove. This model pits a hawk strategy, Always try to injure your opponent and only withdraw from the contest if an injury is received, against a dove. Strategy: always use a non-injurious display if the rival is another dove and always withdraw if the rival is a hawk. Asterisk self-assessment game theory models asterisk this model assume each individual assesses the value of the resource and engages in the contest until the individual reaches a cost threshold beyond which it is unwilling to continue, and so gives up. An individual's cost threshold will be based on assessments of its resource holding potential, RHP, and the value of the resource. A contest will continue until the first individual, the loser, reaches its cost threshold and V abandons the fight. These models predict that contests will always be won by the individual with the higher RHP, and that contest duration will increase as the loser's RHP increases and as the value of the resource increases. Figure 127a. Asterisk 2. Mutual assessment game theory models asterisk this assessment model assumed that each individual assesses the relative cost threshold of itself and its opponent and continues the contest until an individual assesses that it is unlikely to win the contest, because it has a lower cost threshold. Figure 127b. Asterisk 3. War of attrition asterisk. In this model of aggression, two contestants compete for a resource by persisting while V constantly accumulating costs over the time that the contest lasts. Strategically, the game is an auction in which the prize goes to the player with the highest bid, and each player pays the loser's low bid. For deer enemy effect, some animals use this strategy in which two neighboring territorial animals become less aggressive toward one another once territorial borders are well established and they are familiar to each other, but aggression toward unfamiliar animals remains unaffected. The converse of this is the nasty neighbor effect, in which a territory holder shows heightened aggression toward neighboring territory holders but unaffected aggression to unfamiliar animals or distant territory holders. These contrasting strategies depend on which intruder, familiar or unfamiliar, poses the greatest threat to the resident territory holder. 14.3.4 Cost-benefit approach for territorial behavior. To understand the evolution of these kinds of behavior, ecologists often use a cost-benefit approach. This approach assumes that an animal has only a limited amount of time and energy to devote to its activities. Animals seldom perform behaviors whose total costs are greater than the sum of their benefits, the improvements in survival and reproductive success that the animal achieves by performing the behavior. A cost-benefit approach provides a framework that behavioral ecologists can use to design experiments and make observations that enable them to understand why behavior patterns evolve as they do. The total cost of any particular behavior has three components. Energetic cost is the difference between the energy the animal would have expended had it rested and the energy expended in performing the behavior. Risk cost is the increased chance of being injured or killed as a result of performing the behavior, compared with resting. Opportunity cost is the sum of the benefits the animal forfeits by not being able to perform other behaviors during the same time interval. An animal that devotes all of its time to foraging, for example, cannot achieve high reproductive success. The optimal territory size is determined where there is maximum benefits and minimum cost. As shown in Figure 127, territory size of A and B both can be selected, but optimal size will be equal to A since in this there is maximum benefits, even after deduction of cost. Territory size D cannot be selected since cost is more than benefit, same as case with territory size C where cost and benefit are equal. Figure 127, Cost/benefit analysis with territory size. An experiment estimated the costs incurred by male lizards when defending a territory. Male Yarrow spiny lizards defend territories from which they exclude conspecific males. They normally do so most vigorously during September and October, when females are most receptive to mating. In this case, potential mates living in the territory are a resource for the males. To assess the costs of territorial behavior, experimenters inserted small capsules containing testosterone, a hormone that the lizards normally produce in the fall and which induces territorial behavior, beneath the skin of some males. They performed the experiment in June and July, a time of year when the lizards are normally only weakly territorial. Control. Males were also captured and released, but they received no testosterone implants. Males with implanted testosterone capsules patrolled their territories more, performed more advertising displays, and expended about 1/3 more energetic cost than control males. As a result, they had less time to feed, opportunity cost, captured fewer insects, stored less energy, and died at a faster rate, risk cost, figure 128. This experiment demonstrated that the costs of active territorial defense are high. In June and July, when females are less receptive, these costs probably outweigh the benefits. Probably that is why the lizards normally reduce their territorial behavior at that time of year. Figure 128, the cost of defending a territory. Asterisk 14.3.5 Factor affecting territorial behavior asterisk. Several factors affect the benefits and costs of territory defense. Asterisk 1. Body condition affects territoriality. Asterisk aggressive behaviors involved in territorial defense require substantial effort, and so only individuals in good body condition may be able to acquire and defend a territory. Body condition can be measured by body mass, body size, or measures of fat, which indicates extra energy storage that could be used in intense behavioral. Fat serves as fuel for energetically costly behaviors such as fighting, and so larger reserves of fat should allow individuals to fight longer and more aggressively for a territory. Territorial male damselfly had much higher fat reserves than non-territorial males. Asterisk 2. Density of competitors. Asterisk as the number of competitors increases, the cost of defense also increases, because there are more potential intruders. An individual can reduce this cost by defending smaller territories, because they involve less area to defend. This leads to the simple prediction that territory size should be negatively correlated with competitor density. Asterisk 3. Hormone and aggression. Asterisk contests over resources involve a variety of aggressive behaviors, including chasing, pushing, wrestling, and fighting, as well as others that indicate the threat of attack, such as particular postures or displays. In many vertebrates, variation in aggression is coincident with variation in levels of plasma androgen hormones such as testosterone. This steroid hormone is produced in the gonads and is regulated by the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. Androgen hormones have widespread effects on both physiology and behavior. For instance, increased testosterone levels are associated with increases in aggression, sexual behavior, and spermatogenesis. But high testosterone levels are also associated with the suppression of parental care behavior and fat stores, altered immune system function, and increased mortality. Thus, elevated testosterone levels enhance aggression and fighting ability, but at a cost to other aspects that affect individual fitness. Such counteracting effects on fitness suggest an important role for tight regulation of androgen levels. Wingfield's challenge hypothesis states that male-male interactions over territories, dominance status, or mates increase plasma testosterone and thus sustain subsequent aggressive behavior. When males fight over territories and mates, Success in a contest can strongly enhance fitness. Enhanced testosterone levels are predicted to increase aggressive behavior and therefore an individual's probability of winning a contest. This can also explain a phenomenon known as the winner effect. For many animals, winning an aggressive interaction often enhances the likelihood of winning a subsequent interaction. A combination of the winner effect and the challenge hypothesis, the winner-challenge effect, states that winning a challenge increases plasma testosterone levels that enhance aggressive behavior and thus the likelihood of winning subsequent interactions. Juvenile hormone influences many aspects of insect physiology and behavior, including aggression, metamorphosis, sexual behavior, foraging, and parental care.